British consul named Kinsman arrived in Opobo. He came with a message, thinly veiled in diplomacy but laden with threats. You must understand, King Jaja, the British Empire seeks only to bring order and civilization to this land. Your refusal to allow us intermediates in the palm oil trade is problematic. Jaja leaned back, his eyes narrowing. He was silent for a moment, letting the weight of his thoughts settle. Finally, he spoke. In the damp, misty air of the Niger Delta, a boy was born under a sky that roared with thunder, a sign to his elders that he would be no ordinary child. His name was Juboga. Born in 1821 in the village of Umuduroha in Amibo. Like many boys, he grew up chasing the shadows of his father, listening to the rhythmic beat of drums that echoed stories of brave ancestors. But fate, like a swift river current, had other plans for him. One day, as the sun dipped behind the mangroves, casting long shadows across the village, Jubo was captured by Arrow slave traders. It was an ordinary day turned dark, and his cries of freedom faded into the winds. At just 12, he was taken far from home to the coastal city of Bonny. There, amidst the chaos of the slave markets, his future seemed uncertain. But even as a slave, Jubo was different. He observed with sharp eyes and listened with keen ears. A Yoruba proverb says, "A bird does not change its feathers because the weather is bad." And so it was with Jubo. He didn't lose his fire, and soon his intelligence caught the eye of Chief Alali, leader of the Anapepu House, a powerful trading house in Bonny. Alali, recognizing the spark in the young boy, freed him from the shackles of slavery and gave him a new life. Jubo took on the name Jaja, a name that would later become synonymous with defiance and power. With newfound freedom, Jaja worked tirelessly under the Anapepo House, learning the trade of palm oil, the lifeblood of the Delta. His ambition was boundless, like a river that carves its way through the hardest rocks. Jaja's determination pushed him forward. The city of Bonny, with its bustling trade in palm oil, was a gateway to European merchants, eager to profit from African resources. But Jaja wasn't interested in simply making a living. He wanted to control the flow of wealth. With shrewd negotiations and the strength of his will, Jaja quickly rose through the ranks, soon becoming the leader of the Anapepo House. A man who once knew the sting of chains was now in command of one of the most powerful trading houses in the Delta. But power brings envy, and the rival Manila People House, supported by the British traders, saw Jaja as a threat. Tension simmered between the two houses, each vying for control of the lucrative palm oil trade. War broke out, a bitter struggle for dominance. Jaja, always thinking two steps ahead, rallied his allies and fortified his position. In a council of elders, he spoke with wisdom beyond his years. A tree that stands alone may break in the wind, but when trees stand together, they form a forest that no storm can conquer. We must unite, but divided we are weak, but together we are unshakable. His words, like seed in fertile soil, took roots in the hearts of his chiefs, and they followed him with unwavering loyalty. Yet, despite his strategic brilliance, Bonny was fractured. and the British, sensing opportunity, increased their interference. Jaja realized that to preserve his power and protect his people, he needed to chart a new course, one far from the reach of the British hands. In 1869, Jaja made a bold move. Leading his people, he left Bonny to found a new city-state at the mouth of the Imo River. He named it Opobo. After a revered warrior king from Bonny history, the land was lush, the river abundant, and most importantly, it was strategically positioned for trade. From this new kingdom, Jaja could control the flow of palm oil and keep the British at bay. Opobo grew rapidly, its markets buzzing with the clatter of trade. Palm oil barrels lined the docks, ready to be shipped to European buyers. Jaja didn't just build a kingdom, he built an empire. He refused to let British traders act as middlemen, dealing directly with European merchants instead. This angered the British, but Jaja was unmoved. He had tasted both chains and freedom, and he would never be a pawn in someone else's game. In the heart of Opobo, Jaja's palace stood tall, a symbol of his wealth and power. Each morning, the elders would gather under the great Iroko tree, where Jaja would speak of the future. The river does not fear the rain, for it knows the rain feeds its strength. He would say, reminding his people that their destiny was tied to the land and the river. As long as they controlled the river, they controlled their fate. Jaja's success drew not only admiration but also awe. The British, hungry for control, saw him as an obstacle to their plans of dominance in the Niger Delta. They sent emissaries to negotiate, but Jaja, ever the tactician, held firm. His people's autonomy was non-negotiable. He knew that once the British gained a foothold, they would strip his people of their sovereignty, just as they had done in other parts of Africa. One evening, under the fading light of the setting sun, a British consul named Kinsman arrived in Opobo. He came with a message, thinly veiled in diplomacy but laden with threats. The meeting took place in Jaja's palace, where the consul, dressed in European finery, sat uncomfortably at a woven mat. "You must understand, King Jaja," Kinsman began, his firm tone. "The British Empire seeks only to bring order and civilization to this land. Your refusal to allow us intermediates in the palm oil trade is problematic." Jaja leaned back, his eyes narrowing. He was silent for a moment, letting the weight of his thoughts settle. Finally, he spoke, his voice as steady as the flow of the river outside. "The crocodile does not invite the river into its home, yet it lives there in peace," Jaja said. "We have lived on this land long before your ships came. If you wish to trade, you will do so on our terms. We do not need your protection nor your interference." The air between them grew thick with tension. Kinsman, though angered, knew he could not openly challenge Jaja without the backing of his superiors. But the British would not give up so easily. Years passed, and Opobo continued to thrive under Jaja's leadership. But the British, frustrated by his defiance, plotted in the shadows. In 1887, they made their move. A British officer named Harry Johnston arrived in Opobo with a seemingly friendly invitation for Jaja to negotiate a treaty. He invited Jaja aboard a British warship, promising safety and peaceful discussion. Jaja, though wary, agreed to meet, trusting in his own ability to navigate any negotiation. But as soon as he stepped aboard, the true intentions of the British became clear. Jaja was informed that he would be taken to Accra in present-day Ghana for further talks. In reality, it was exile. Betrayed but unbowed, Jaja stood tall. The tortoise may hide in its shell, but it never forgets the part it walked, he said. You may take me from my kingdom, but you will never take the spirit of Opobo from my people. With those words, Jaja was taken away, far from the land he had built with his own hands and mind. His exile marked the beginning of British control over Opobo, but the spirit of resistance remained strong among his people. Jaja never returned to his beloved Opobo. He died in exile in 1891, far from the waters of the Niger Delta. His passing was mourned by his people, but his legacy was far from forgotten. In Opobo, stories of his bravery, his wisdom, and his defiance continued to be told around the fires at night. He had been a slave, a trader, a king, and above all, a symbol of African resilience. In his time, Jaja's story became one of the resistance against the encroaching tide of colonialism. A tale of a man who rose from the depths of slavery to build a kingdom that stood in defiance of an empire. His life was a testament to the strength of the human spirit, the power of wisdom, and the unbreakable bond between a people and their land. As the Ijaw people say, a river that forgets its source will dry up. And so, the people of Opobo remember Jaja, for he was their source, their strength, their leader, and their king.